Here we go. Once again, no edits. Every single question answered. You know why? Because I got no limit on my time now. SmackDown doesn't start for another 3.5 hours or so. What is almost 1 o'clock? It starts if it's about 4 hours from now. Is that right? Yeah, that is right. So let's go ahead and dive into your questions. I'm sure you guys have some amazing pro wrestling questions that I could easily put on a thumbnail here on YouTube. Let's go ahead and dive into it. First up, Villa says, why did they remove Ronald McDonald from all the McDonald's advertising? I loved him. There's a lot to unpack with this one. First up, it's not a wrestling question. Number two, they removed Ronald McDonald from McDonald's advertisements? That seems fucked up because, like, he's their guy. And then number three, you loved Ronald McDonald. That's I'm not going to lie, a little bit on the weird side. Planet Bumble says, not a question really, but I want to thank you for this channel and Going in Raw in general. You guys are the highlight of my day sometimes, and I really appreciate that. Keep up the good work, King of... I don't know what the rest of it says. This is not a question. It's a statement. Thank you. Seriously, I'm joking. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, but it does bother me that I can't King of Friendos. Oh, there we go. Now I got to make the text really small if I want to read these things. Let's see here. What is this one? Kyle the Stud, another non-wrestling question. Are you excited for the new Superman movie? Yeah, we're a minute 40 into this. We haven't had a wrestling question yet. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to go see it this week sometime. Let's see here. Here we go. There's a wrestling question. The Chop Sports and Gaming says, who would you want as a Heyman girl in Seth's faction and why? Julia or Jordan Grace would be elevated instantly. My answers are, in fact, Julia or Jordan Grace. I actually had thought about Julia. Jordan Grace would be awesome. I think Jordan Grace would work perfectly. I think you need to get her out of that cheesy ass NXT bullshit she's doing with Blake Monroe. I can't stand that kind of sketch comedy shit that they do in NXT. It's rarely funny. It's rarely good, and it rarely helps anybody. It's just awkwardly filmed, not very good, and it doesn't utilize anybody's strengths. Sorry, that was an NXT rant there. Jordan Grace would be great. Daniel Blake says, if you could build your perfect pro wrestler, who would you choose for promo? Promo would be Raven. Strength would be Braun Breaker, as would Speed. Speed would be Braun Breaker too. Technical would be William Regal. Entrance would be Kazuchika Okada. And finisher would be Baron Corbin. That's the perfect wrestler right there. SSJ says, Triple H doesn't care, he's in the money-making business. Clearly, this is not a question either, and I don't even know what it means. Does it mean Triple H doesn't care that he's in the money-making business? Or does it mean he doesn't care, comma, it'd be a semicolon, he's in the money-making business? What is this? We need more questions here. Gabriel Ribeiro, yeah, I got that right, says, will AJ Styles be a Hall of Fame headliner, and who inducts him? Yes, he should be. And ideally, of course, it would be Samoa Joe. If not him, then maybe Abyss. I think that'd be cool too. They seem close. I'm really bummed out that they never continued on the partnership between AJ Styles and Joseph Park, or whatever they called him there in WWE. Remember, for 2 weeks he was with Joseph Park, and then I guess Vince didn't like it. Fuck. Claus Techno says, if CM Punk retires from wrestling someday, I assume he will. I mean, maybe he won't retire until he's in his 80s. I don't know. Who would you choose to be his last opponent? Hangman Adam Page. Hey, you asked. Dired Homer says, do you hate in a tag match when someone gets destroyed, makes a hot tag, only to tag back in 20 seconds later? Not if the match is good. If the match sucks, then yeah. Nate Fuentes says, do you think the main event scene was more interesting with only one world title instead of two? Not inherently so, but I think a case could be made for either one. I don't know. The way they're doing it now, I feel like they are trying to elevate it right now with Seth and Punk both mixing it up with Gunther. I feel like that'll go a long way towards elevating that title and putting it on par. When they just stuck to their brands, I think that was sort of best. because I feel like there's enough talent to have two separate brands that do something slightly different that have their own world championships. I'm fine with that. But when the brand split means nothing, then it's like, okay, this world title, it's just a mid-card title. So, yeah, that's how I feel. The Scots says, who should be the first person to challenge for the Continental title after Y'all In? I'd like to see Brody King go for it. So the title scene is weird because I guess on that media call, Tony Khan said the unified title could be carried alone or with all three titles, and the Continental Classic is still going to be a thing where I guess the Continental title or the unified title is still going to be defended. I didn't get that far into it. Yeah, I'd like to see Brody King go for any title, to be honest with you, any singles title. Probably the TNT title makes the most sense because Okada's going to hold on to the unified title. But Brody King winning the Continental Classic would be great. I think he needs a push. I love him. He's great. Raymond Cullum says, who's your least favorite superstar on the current WWE roster? Okay, in terms of people who, like, I don't really care to see all that much, like they show up and I'm like, I'm kind of checked out of this. Because I don't want to dog anybody. And we're talking active every single week. They're on the roster. Who do I care about the least? Who do I care to see the least? Boy, that's a tough one. Because I kind of like everybody. I will say he's not even featured every week, but like even the Miz, who usually I'm like, I don't really care about this guy. Even the Miz, like I'm cool with because he's not really featured that much. And I feel like lately when he is featured, he kind of adds something. So, God, I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for this. I really had 16 people thumbs up it too. I don't have an answer for this one. Who's my least favorite superstar on the current roster? I mean, I even really appreciate the work of Solo Sikoa these days. So, yeah, I don't really have an answer for you. I like everybody right now. Braden St. John says, can we all admit that Paul isn't treating the NXT call-ups any better than Vince did? Au contraire, Braden. I don't agree with this at all. I think that Julia is the U.S. champion. She's treated very well. Stephanie Vaquera is treated very well. Who else got called up? Roxanne's treated pretty well. She's a tag champion right now. So those ones, they just haven't called up any dudes. It's been since like 2024. It was like last year that, and I think it was early 2024 that Braun Breaker got basically called up, although there was a lot of overlap there. Braun, Carmelo, and Ilya. So Braun is being treated pretty well. They're literally calling him like the face of the next 2 decades of WWE. It's coming along slowly. It's not like he immediately got into the main event scene. Carmelo's not where he should be, but I feel like if Vince was around, he'd probably be saddled with some stupid comedy gimmick, and he's not. He just needs to be featured more often. And then Ilya is injured, and yeah, he wasn't probably positioned as well as I would have liked to have seen him before he got injured, but hopefully he'll have a big return. But they had to seriously start rebuilding their men's division in NXT. There have not been any call-ups in a long time. So, no, I in terms of the men, Fraxium is treated pretty well as a tag team. So, no. I think that Vince would look at the call-ups and sometimes he'd like intentionally bury him, it felt like. Femtrapped says, what's your top 3 favorite wrestler/faction themes of the recent era? It would be Io Sky. It would be, I actually do like Braun Breaker's theme. I like Braun Breaker's theme. I think it's pretty good. It'd be Braun Breaker. And then it would be, I don't know. Let's see here. I'm trying to run down some. Oh, I mean, the recent era? Does LA Knight count for that? Because LA Knights is like a, for past 20 years, might be like top 5. It's really good. What's up? It's Winston says, if you could start a new company and you get first pick of a wrestler from any promotion, who would you choose? So you need somebody who would really fit with whatever this new company is. Certain people kind of need to be in WWE. And if they go outside that, like if I said Cody Rhodes, we've seen Cody Rhodes outside WWE. didn't work as well as it does in WWE. So I'm not going to say Cody. If I could start a new company and get first pick of a wrestler from any promotion, I would choose... probably Rhea Ripley. Probably Rhea. She's got everything. OJ the Black says, is AEW having just as good or a better year than WWE? Define better. Do we mean creatively? I think creatively this year, AEW has firmly established themselves as a wonderful alternative to what WWE does. WWE has really leaned hard into the razzle dazzle. AEW has really leaned hard into the wrestling, but they've done it in a way where they're also emphasizing strong logical characters and strong logical storylines. And I feel like they're just getting started. Hopefully they can carry this momentum through the rest of the year and have a killer 2026. And I feel like they'll really be in a good position to grow their audience that way. As we've seen this year, there was a report from Brandon Thurston, WrestleNomics, that their viewership has inched ever so slightly up. And these days, with more competition from social, from all sorts of different entertainment outlets, I think that's a good sign. WWE clearly financially is like eclipsing any possible, like from a financial standpoint, no. But if you're talking about a creative standpoint, I feel like they're both doing what they do well. And that sounds like a push, maybe it is, but I feel like they're both doing well at what they do well. And AEW's really found an identity this year, and I really like that. King Queen Halen says, who do you think Tama Tonga aligns with when he returns? Probably Jacob. Funk Nelson says, what do you see happening with Cross now that Sammy's off TV? I'm worried he's going to get the Shinsuke treatment. I think he will. I don't know. I mean, Sammy's not going to be off TV very long, so it'll probably be Cross versus... Maybe Cross versus Braun Breaker will be kind of a side mission for both those guys until Sammy gets back. Grown Up Kid 94 says, who's got the best pro wrestling on YouTube, not podcast, actual promotions? Action Coast Wrestling here in Sacramento. Haunted Hemi says, if Steve and Larson were a tag team, who would be your greatest rivals? The real answer is right here. Enzo says their knees. That is absolutely true. Wayne Spark says, does Mox and by extension the Death Riders need to go away and regroup after he loses to Hangman at All In? No, they need to double down with the violence. Jay Bryant says, if Hangman loses, would you want him to beat Moxley round 2 or Darby or someone else? If Hangman loses, I feel like it's probably gonna be Darby. But you might as well do the whole Cody Roman thing and have it be Hangman again, but he wins the second time. Brian D. Lil says, when would be the best time to turn Rhea heel again? Maybe in a Drew McIntyre-inspired turn. Probably, honestly, heading into SummerSlam. Good luck with that, though, because she's wildly popular. And here's the thing about a heel is that you do cool shit. And people like cool shit. That's why people like Drew McIntyre. Victimizer says, bring back Going in Raw Math. The videos never did well. Alex Andre Kean says, when will the bloodline ever end? I mean, seemingly it's done with. He called up the MFTs. My Family Trees. That's what he called them. So I think it's not the bloodline anymore. Shane Canavan says, do you have a favorite wrestling memory? Match, promo, moment, event, shared experience. Yes. Seth Rollins cashed in at 31. That's my favorite. Oh, that was crazy. Johnny Burney says, what should be the match for Will Ospreay if he was going to win the AEW World Championship at Wembley 2026? Most likely. Ospreay versus MJF, probably. Sam McGuire says, what's a good idea for a second date with the girl you like? Okay, really quick. I did have to edit that because somebody came to the door. A second date is talking a lot. Something where you talk a lot. So when Lacey and I first started dating, our first date was shooting pool. We went to like a billiards place or whatever. The second date was going to be going to watch Zombieland. But beforehand, we went to a bar and we had such a good conversation that we sort of forgot about the movie. Well, I didn't, but she did. and I didn't say anything because we were having such good conversation. I had already bought the tickets, mind you. Later on, she bought me Zombieland on DVD for like a birthday present. It was a very sweet callback. But we were having such a good conversation that it's like, man, I don't want to stop this. I'm having a good time right now. So I just ate the money on the tickets, and we just kept on talking. And so, yeah, I would say something where you're talking. So like a bar or dinner, something like that. Let's see here. What's up? Roller skating 80s nights. Take her to pro wrestling show. No. Al Stover said, by the way, here, just take her to a pro wrestling show. That's how you can tell if she's the one. No. It doesn't matter if her interests, if her hobbies are the same as yours, as long as she respects that it's something you appreciate and she appreciates that about you. Al Stover says, what wrestlers would you cast as superheroes? For example, MJF is Guy Gardner. That's actually a good one. Cody Rhodes is Barry Allen Flash. Not huge into that. DDP is Booster Gold. I actually think that Cody would work great as Booster Gold. I think that would work perfect. So I'm not going to do a whole a bunch of random ass superheroes. But since you're bringing up Guy Gardner and Booster Gold, we're going to bring up my favorite comic book series of all time. It's Justice League. It's when they were like it's like a kind of a sitcom version. So wrestlers as superheroes. Here we go. Let's see here. Guy Gardner, we already got MJF. Shazam would be, you know what? The Rock. The Rock should have been Shazam in the first place. They shouldn't have got the Zachary Levi guy. They should have got The Rock for Shazam, not Black Adam. I don't know why he was always obsessed with Black Adam. They should have got The Rock for Shazam. Made a lot of sense. Batman would be Hangman Adam Page. Who's this? Dr. Fate would be, I don't know, somebody mysterious. Raven. Blue Beetle, Booster Gold's best friend, would be, no, that doesn't work. Cycling through people here. LA Knight would actually be pretty funny as that. Actually, LA Knight as Guy Gardner would work really well. Mr. Miracle, the original Mr. Miracle, sort of a suburban dad type, but he's also like, prince to a whole other planet. I don't know. I'd go with Randy Orton for Mr. Miracle. How about that? I don't know. That was probably not very good. Randy Orton could be the Martian Manhunter. How about that? Anyways, moving on here. Next up, we've got Ragnarok. Says, do you think WWE will ever have a dog collar match? I don't see why not. NM says, is the Renaissance era over for good? If so, when did it officially end? Is the Renaissance era what they were calling the Triple H thing? I think that's what they were calling that, or the Paul Levesque era. I feel like we're still in that. I feel like it's going to be until maybe Roman Reigns retires, or until we get like a really huge... There's a bunch of people who really probably are going to retire in the next couple of years. Punk, Orton probably should. Punk, Orton, Roman... all the old timers that are currently clogging up the main event scene. Not Seth. Seth's going to be around for a while. Cody's going to be around for a while. But I feel like when Roman, Punk, and like Orton, when those guys retire, we might see an influx. Like Obafemi, Javon Evans, and Trick Williams are going to sort of be, fast-tracked. And Braun Breaker, they're gonna take their spots up in the main event. And then we'll be shifting into a new era. When Roman Reigns stops main eventing stuff. Jalen LeGrand says, is Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky just Roman versus Brock at this point? No, because Roman versus Brock was a very specific thing that we all understood what the subtext was, trying to get Roman Reigns over. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky are both over huge. Job done, mission accomplished. This is more of a... what would you guys compare this to? Not even a... maybe like a Shawn versus Brett thing, where they're both kind of on equal footing, but they're... obviously they like each other. So I don't know. I already did a victimizer question. Angel Zero says, what storyline from the 90s should get a sequel storyline? Storyline should get a sequel. It's a storyline. See, how about like, a storyline? So it's the 90s. It's like 30 years ago. I don't know. Sting in the NWO. I don't know. Darby takes on a new version of the NWO. I don't even think you can do that because NWO is owned by WWE. Zach Stolpa. Hey, Zach Stolpa. Says, do you ever think the style of shooting wrestling mainly at a stage venue like NWA, WCW was, or Memphis Wrestling, some ever will make a comeback in pro wrestling? Okay, so you're talking about like studio wrestling. NWA tried that not long ago. I mean, 5 years ago during pandemic when they started. Not during pandemic. It was pre-pandemic? I think it was pre-pandemic. When NWA started, they were doing it in a studio. And I thought it was cool. I just think that because it looks small, I don't know that was the kind of thing that's ever going to work on a large enough stage. Jordy Superkick says, what can CM Punk conceivably do to make Mount Rushmore status before the end of his run? So this is an interesting question. And the answer is nothing. Because it's too late. He's old. The Mount Rushmore, this is the thing about pro wrestling. It's kind of like saying, what's your Mount Rushmore of big movie stars, right? What is a big movie star? Somebody who makes a shit ton of money at the box office. So, what's the Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, just in general, right? Probably Hogan, Cena, Reigns, Austin, right? Maybe those four. You can throw in some other names. The Rock maybe instead of, I don't know, Cena. But Cena's so mainstream these days that I kind of feel like Cena should be in there. You can maybe make the argument that instead of Roman Reigns, you put The Rock in there. I don't know. But like those are the names that are main eventing, that are the draws that people come to see, that make all the money for the company. CM Punk hasn't really been that guy. He's very popular, but he wasn't that guy back then. He's not. I think he's a contributing guy like that now. I think obviously he's a draw and he's a big draw. But I think that at the age of what he's at, 46, I think, yes, you could be a big draw, but he's got to be winding down at some point. So it's not like he's had like a 10, 15 year run as the draw, the guy bringing people in. The way it seems like kind of Roman has tried to be, the way Cena was. Certainly, I know Austin's run was pretty short, but my God, it was so huge. It peaked so massively that he could be considered a Mount Rushmore guy. Same with The Rock, kind of 1A, 1B. So when it comes to the Mount Rushmore, it's who's the biggest company getting behind and how far can they carry that ball? You know what I mean? And so the biggest company is WWE. Roman Reigns is main event of the most WrestleManias. John Cena was, John Cena. Austin was like the biggest box office draw ever. The Rock could be up there also. So there's a variety of things. And I don't think Punk, like if you want to do a Mount Rushmore of promos, Punk's on there. In my opinion, I think he's on there. Absolutely he's on there. In terms of a Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling in general, I don't think he's on that list. He could be on your personal list, your personal favorites, but I don't think that he's on any list that's like, oh, who was pro wrestling, the biggest names or the biggest draws. And I don't think he was that. Let's see here. Oh, guys gave some answers to that one. Trophy Hunter says, what video game are you currently playing and hope you're feeling? I feel like $1 million. I've been eating a lot better and I've been going to the gym and playing a lot of basketball. And I'm so glad that I'm not sick anymore. I feel great. And I'm still playing Rocket League. Miss Ace says, in current WWE, who would be in Justice League or Avengers? Oh, wow. So the Avengers in WWE. Oh, dude, I don't know. They're very different things, kind of. But also kind of not. I already did a superhero question. I guess Cody would be Captain America, right? That makes sense. Roman Reigns would be Superman. That makes sense. Seth Rollins would be more of the current iteration is kind of the Joker-ish, right? Mox would be Batman. So they'd all be like, on the DC side of things. Who's Iron Man? Who's like really smart? I don't know. Is that Randy Orton? He's the whatever they call him. The Apex Predator. Sock Cucker says, what's your and Larson's in and out order? I don't know what Larson's in and out order is. I don't like in and out. Their fries are shit. Their burgers are all right. So I don't know. I like the burgers are okay. Napalm Blaziken says, hey, Freakazoid, want to go see a bear riding a motorcycle? I had to look that reference up. Pinterest Tattoo says, Alice in Chains or Nirvana? I think, personally speaking, Alice in Chains does a bit more for me, but Nirvana's close by. Soundgarden's my number one. Adam Messenger says, where would you go to inquire about interest and pricing on hiring Steve here to make a logo for one's comic book? Sorry, I don't do that. I can't. It's difficult for me to bring creative energy to somebody else's project. So I don't do that. John O'Davy says, hey, Steve, in your opinion, what's more egregious? Putting on a pay-per-view purely to limit negative PR like Saudi Arabia, are you talking about Evolution? Or simply to counter-program another promotion? What's more egregious? I don't know. Putting on a pay-per-view purely to limit negative PR? What is the example here? Saudi Arabia? I don't know. I guess putting on a pay-per-view, is it putting on a pay-per-view to help Saudi Arabia with the sports washing thing? Is that what we're talking about here? I guess that's what we're talking about. Or to simply counter-program another promotion. I mean, if the idea behind the Saudi Arabia deal is to like make people look the other way when it comes to their human rights violations, probably that. Beast says, how would you book Evolution? Further out in advance. Choweezy says, what fictional wrestler or wrestlers would make it? The Evolution card is really good. I have no problem with the Evolution card. I just wish they would have kind of like not waited the last minute for some of this stuff. Choweezy says, what fictional wrestler or wrestlers would make it big in the real world? Would make it big? Fictional wrestler. Oh, Randy the Ram was, I think, a main eventer in his time, or at least an upper mid-card guy. Rob Zerver says, Primus, yay or nay? I don't know, and I only know the one song, or two. I know two songs. The Beaver one, and then the other one that everybody knows. My Name is Mud. Not really my thing, although I can appreciate the bass playing. Meaningless J says, if you had a full sandbox of every active wrestler, assuming injured wrestlers are back in normal health, what 5 superstars from any company would you draft first to build the company around? All right. Can we also assume that we're going throughout space and time? I'm going to go Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Raven, DDP, and John Cena. What a great company that is immediately. Enigma says, what is your favorite wrestling masks? Rey Mysterio. Juan Sanchez says, did Stone Cold's career benefit in the short term from the neck injury? Because he got more promo time while hurt to build his character. He was forced to adopt a brawling style, but this fit his character. He also had like a kind of a fire lit under him. So I don't know. I feel like his career would have gone like the same path, but he just would have been around longer and maybe been less burned out. In the short term, I don't know that he would have been all that different, to be honest with you. Let's see here. Rossatron says, should WWE utilize the AAA acquisition and bring back Lucha Underground? Does AAA own Lucha Underground? The Wyatt Six and Lucha Underground would be pretty cool. So, I don't know. I don't think they're ever going to fuck with their format of pro wrestling. And Lucha Underground really fuck with the format. 1, 2, 3, the Nerf Sniper says, with so many rumors of Paige and AJ Lee coming back, who is a wrestler you'd love to return to a former brand? He says Ron Killing's back in TNA. A wrestler you'd love to CM Punk and AEW. Validation Boy says, do you guys give credit to Seaweed, the authentic Seattle area predecessors to the entire grunge scene of the 90s? I don't know who they are, but I'll check them out. Kamari Best, if Bianca returns at Evolution and wins a Battle Royal and eventually wins the WWE Championship, do you see her being a heel champion to fight Jade at 42? No, I'll still be surprised if they turn Bianca heel. Ken Adams' business firm, one of the Triple H cameos coming back to Going in Raw. And he says he refuses to call the podcast any other name. I don't know. You just gotta watch the show, man. Jimbo Slice says, if Sammy were to lose the Saudi Rumble in a shock elimination, what heel should win that Rumble? What bad guy should, you know what? Give Bronson Reed some shine. Lost, or probably Braun Breaker, to be honest with you. Lost Hollywood. We're over halfway through the year. What wrestler rising up the ranks has really caught your eye this year? Javon Evans. Diabetic Man. What are your thoughts on the Spinner WWE title? Love it. It's amazing. M. Jansenart. Says, do you think WWE is relying too heavily on nostalgia currently, bringing back people like Trish, Nikki, and Goldberg? It seems like they are. Well, they're offsetting that with other names, younger names like CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. Paradox 3000, is Darby Allin beating Mox for the title even worth waiting for? Oh boy, that's a good question. Beating Mox for the title worth waiting for? No. Was it ever? Yeah, I think they had something cool setting that up. I do. And then when it seemed like the timeline wasn't going to line up, I mean, hey, that might be still the situation. But if they're not going to do that, if Hangman's going to do it, I think Hangman's a better option. I really do. Milk was a bad choice. So do you think there will come to a point where the majority of WWE talent will be fed up with their creative direction and AEW become the prime destination? I don't know. I can't tell the future. If Triple H starts sucking, then possibly. If something happens, if Triple H decides to retire and they bring somebody else in and they can't get the respect of the talent, then that's a distinct possibility. But you can't tell the future. Zoe851 says, what wrestler do you think has the best merch out right now? Danhausen. Also Chris Brooks. Aaron says, best pay-per-view stage beside Mania. Probably ECW, back when they had like a bunch of chain link and like brick wall and shit. I always like that stuff. The Matty Pooh says, if you could pick one wrestler from NXT and give them an instant push. Actually, Noah. If you look at like Noah's setup, it looked great. Matty Pooh says, if you could pick one wrestler from NXT and give them an instant push for a main roster title, then who would that be? It'd be Trick. The Unlucky Conqueror says, if you could change one thing about pro wrestling storytelling, what would it be? You know what? On Collision, Hangman Adam Page came into Swerve Strickland's locker room and had a sit down with him. And I watched it on YouTube and it was great. You know why it was great? Because Swerve looked at the camera and says, how dare you bring a cameraman in here? They motivated the camera. They acknowledged the camera. That's what I would do. No more camera shots of private conversations, assuming the camera's not there. I can't stand it. JV says, do you think Tony Khan will ever buy WWE? Bro, wrestling is crazy. AJ Otani says, thoughts on Ridge Holland and LFG's Tyra May Steele joining Evolve. If that's what they think is going to help them wrestle better, then good for them. Braden St. John, if any current WWE wrestler transition to the UFC, do you think any superstar could reach the heights that Brock did when he went to the Octagon? No, not a chance. Real TJP says, do you think The Miz will ever surpass Chris Jericho's 9-time Intercontinental Championship reign? Miz takes really good care of himself. It's possible. Timbo says, assuming Cody wins the Survivor Series, how would you make his run more interesting than the first? Survivor Series, SummerSlam. I don't know. Maybe do a thing where he gets burnt out. Down, under, and over the top. Do you think we'll get another year-long world championship reign in the next 5 years? I do. Already did one of yours, Victimizer. Only one per person. Kamari Best already did one of yours too. Claus Techno already did one of yours too. Dog Guy. Will Saturday night's main event be a completely missable show? The Goldberg retirement match I'm curious about. I'm curious about that. Otherwise, yeah, kind of. Clever usernames. From every spear from Braun, you get 10,000. How many are you taking? None. I do not want permanent damage, and I would get permanent damage. Cripple Punk says, cheese? Yes. I love cheese. Cheese is great. Jay Ralstonism says, which members of MFT do you think will still be signed with WWE in the next 5 years? Hikuleo will be. Well, Hikuleo will be if his wrestling is okay. He's tall. They like tall people. In 5 years? Man, I don't know. Hopefully all of them. Cheeseman says, are the Thunder the next NBA dynasty? They got a killer team. Boy, they got a good team. They're a good team, but there's a lot of good teams and a lot of moving pieces. So I don't know. Dynasties in the NBA. Dynasties these days in the NBA are hard to come by. I mean, dude, look at the last couple of years. Like, it's a new team winning every single year. The days of the Golden State Warriors are over. I don't know. I mean, the Thunder have a really young team, so they've got the best shot. A lot of good teams. And who knows what would have happened if Halliburton hadn't gone down. Heel Harrison, Steven Larson started a tag team. What's the name and what's their finish? We're the Shit Twins. And our finish is Shaker Height Spike. Bucket Dipper. Why do you and Larson say Soruka? When she first arrived, we made a joke. I made a joke that her name sounds like something Al Pacino would say. Soruka. And now that's just how we say it. That joke is probably 2 years old at this point. Aisha says, in your opinion, what makes a joke wrestler a good one? Goldust, Yano are over, but Tozawa isn't. Couldn't remember the correct term for that specific type of wrestler. A comedy wrestler. What makes a comedy wrestler a good comedy wrestler? So Tozawa wasn't allowed to do much of a thing beyond kind of a stereotype, to be honest with you. I think if they're allowed to go all in on the gimmick and they have some amount of success as a wrestler, Orange Cassidy is a winning type wrestler. Goldust won stuff. Yano won stuff. Tozawa didn't really win stuff. And I think that's kind of the difference, is that if you can get emotionally invested in a wrestler, it's in part going to be because, hey, I can get behind this guy because I think they can win. So I think that's part of the thing. But then you look at somebody like Ariana Grace. She's terrific as sort of a comedy act, but she loses all the time. Chelsea Green, she's won. She won the United States Championship. Terrific wrestler and terrific personality. There also has to be some complexity there and some evolution in their character. Loco Booty says, do you agree with Daniel Garcia's promo that everybody beats him? I mean, who am I to disagree with that? Awful promo. Probably regretting signing there. Enzo says, what's the single worst moment in WWE's history that was scripted, no wrestlers, deaths, or injuries, etc.? Okay. Does Vince interviewing Brian Pillman's widow count? Because that's the worst moment in WWE history. Mr. Dark says, if Evolution doesn't do that, or maybe the Barclay Dog stuff. If Evolution doesn't do that, basically Vince being like a lecherous scumbag. Not like over the top bad boss, but after that, when he was just a disgusting fetishist piece of shit. That was so like, I'm turning off fucking TV now. Mr. Dark, especially now what we know. If Evolution doesn't do the numbers, you think TK should put on an AEW, Ring of Honor, etc., all women's show on a non-wrestling pack weekend just to show the concept is good, but WWE messed it up? No. You shouldn't program anything to prove a point about WWE. Do your own shit. James R.R. Baker says, not truly a wrestling question, but with everything in the world going on, do you ever just want to stop being critical of things and just enjoy them? Not saying you in particular, but just in general, whether it be wrestling or whatever. All right, so I looked at all these questions in advance, and I stopped and looked at this one. I was like, you know what? Yes, there is a thing that I enjoy that I don't believe I'm necessarily overly analytical about. Most media that I consume, I have like studied. So, for example, film. I went to film school. I have been highly analytical of film since high school, since I really started paying attention to movies. And so I watch them, I'll pick them apart, and I can't help that. Nothing I can do about that. That's just the way my brain works. Comic books, same thing. I used to publish comic books. So now it's rare that I pick up comic books because there's not a lot on the shelves that I'm like, God, this is really good. Music is the one thing that I am exclusively driven by emotionally. Larson has education in, he's a self-taught musician. He knows how to pick apart that stuff. He knows the bits and pieces. And so he approaches his musical appreciation in a way that is analytical, in a way that I would break down like a comic. If I open up a comic book, I see artwork and I can break it down, from an analytical standpoint. I am not that person. I love listening to people talk about music. And so I'm kind of educated a little bit here and there, but whenever they do, it's sort of new to me. It's interesting to me. That being said, my consumption of music is purely emotional. It's how it moves me. It's what the lyrics are saying. It's the conviction in the lyrics. It's, yes, how the instruments are being played, but just how it appeals to me in an emotional standpoint. So that's my just enjoy it is music. I either like it or I don't. With movies, television, especially these days, how television is produced like movies, films, TV, comic books, pretty much all, that stuff that I consume, it's like I can't help but appreciate it from a critical standpoint. That's just how my brain operates. Lost Mexican says, how's Caljack doing? He's doing great. We're friends on the Facebook, and that's where he posts a lot of his personal stuff, and he's doing wonderful. He has a lovely family, a new job. He's doing great. Already answered one of those. Jimbo says, realistically speaking, should WWE bring back Cyber Sunday? Sure, why not? Go ahead and do it. Lincoln Mosley says, what's your honest opinion on WrestleMania 9? I know a lot of people say it's one of, if not the worst Mania ever. I have a soft spot for it because it was the first pay-per-view I remember watching. My honest opinion on WrestleMania 9? I don't know. I enjoy, I'll put it this way. I enjoy weird shit, right? And so I appreciate that it's a really weird show. It's a very strange show. The documentary they did, obviously it was very, very WWE, but the documentary they did is a lot of fun. And it's fun going back and watching that weird shit. That's kind of my honest opinion on it. I don't have it's like the 32nd worst one of all time. I don't know where I would rank it necessarily on shit that I want to watch again. But it's a really weird one, and I love weird shit. Joe Nero West says, why do you like Finn Balor so much? Can you explain it to me? The best answer is given by Shane, who says Finn equals win. That's why I like Finn Balor so much. Ken Adams, I already answered one of yours, Ken Adams. Gorilla says, if Mox wins, then what? And they keep on writing the story. Then I guess it's going to be Darby, isn't it? John says, when do you see Mox returning to the WWE, either for a one-off or a fullish time basis? I don't see him coming back to WWE unless I think at this point WWE is too razzle-dazzle for him. I don't see it. I really don't. I don't think he needs the money. He's probably a very happy person. So why? Is there a story there that he'd be like, oh, I don't even think he really cares about? I think he just likes simple pro wrestling stories. I don't think there's like a Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins epic that he cares about telling. I don't think he cares about that stuff. Already answered Enzo question. Hank Hill, ain't it? Says, which wrestler do you think could have helped AEW firmly beat WWE in ratings when Monday Night Raw was consistently insufferable? The answer is CM Punk. The timeline didn't match up and it wouldn't have mattered anyways. So the answer really is nobody. Clever user names. Can you see Vince ever appearing on AEW television? I'd be shocked if that happened. Hojo says, you think WWE has influenced changes in TNA like the firing of Scott D'Amore and Gail Kim? No idea. Couldn't speak on that. Tyler says, did the WWE my guess is no. The WWE did a shit job of putting together Evolution this Sunday, and that's why ticket sales are slow. This is not a question. And I say that. Scott says, do you think the Insane Clown Posse should be in the WWE Hall of Fame? And that's the last question. And my answer is, hell yeah, I think they should. Why not? Those guys were all in it. And they still have a wildly successful promotion. So yes, I've never really been a fan of their music, but their contribution to pro wrestling, hell yeah, put them in the Hall of Fame. Why not? See you guys around.